Revealed 10 spine-chilling and sinister true stories from 2024 that will haunt you forever. The quaint neighborhood of Maplewood, with its pristine lawns and perfectly trimmed hedges, hid a dark truth that lay like a festering wound beneath its glossy surface. The Johnson family, seemingly ordinary, reveled in their suburban tranquility. Little did they know, the shadows loomed closer, slowly tightening around their lives. One crisp autumn evening, as a fierce wind whipped through the streets, their neighbor Mr. Hargrove, the beloved school principal, didn't return home. Panic rippled through the community, but as days dragged on, the fear morphed into something more sinister. Whispers filled the air. "Have you heard the knocks?" Followed by furtive glances exchanged over picket fences. The Johnsons found themselves at the epicenter of the dread. "Did you hear that?" Lily, their 16-year-old daughter, gasped, her phone lighting up with an anonymous message that read, "The woods hold secrets about the lost children." Her heart raced as she faced the darkening window, the merciless wind shaking the frame. Mike and Sarah exchanged looks. Was it a prank or something worse? "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Lily's obsession with the messages deepened, the shadows crept closer. Strange symbols appeared on their front porch, and the flicker of streetlights became a stuttering beacon of dread, echoing Lily's escalating anxiety. "Mom, Dad, something isn't right," she cried, as another knock resonated through the silence. "It's just kids playing games," Sarah tried to pacify, sweat beading on her forehead, but deep inside they felt it too, the tightening grip of fear. The Johnsons learned of the woods, where decades ago children vanished, swallowed by the allure of mystery. It was a rumor, a ghost tale, the kind you dismiss until you can't escape its reality. Then one night, Lily vanished. Her absence drowned the atmosphere in a horror that no suburban facade could conceal. Mike's heart hammered against his ribcage like a drum, each pulse echoing Lily's laughter that now felt like a haunting memory. Frantic, they raced toward Maplewood School, flashlight beams cutting through the oppressive dark. The hallways had become tombs, the air heavy with regret, each footstep a reminder of their lost daughter. As they turned the corner, Mike noticed symbols that danced and pulsed against the dilapidated walls, reverberating with an ancient energy that made their skin crawl. "What is this?" Sarah gasped, her eyes widening in horror. With each step, the walls seemed to close in, whispering secrets of the past, urging them deeper into the haunted heart of Maplewood. Just as they pieced it all together, the air thickened with a silence so heavy it felt like it was pressing down on them, rendering them paralyzed. A rustling of leaves outside echoed like a ghostly wail, and a whisper, soft yet bone-chilling, arose from the darkness. "Turn back!" But they couldn't. The truth hung tantalizingly close, drawing them in even as the danger wrapped around them like a snake ready to strike. Would they uncover Lily's fate, or would the darkness claim them too? The oppressive stillness clung to Mike and Sarah as they stood at the threshold of the decaying hallway, their hearts racing like frantic birds beating against the cage of their chests. The shadows seemed to lengthen, stretching across the walls as if reaching out to ensnare them. Mike swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe. "We have to find her," he whispered urgently. But where could they search? The whispers from the darkness coiled around him, wrapping tighter with each reckless thought of Lily out there, lost. "Did you hear that?" Sarah's voice trembled, slicing through the silence. It sounded like laughter, but it wasn't the innocent giggle of their daughter. It felt twisted, mocking. Another noise scuttled across the floor, a shuffle, a light thud. "Maybe it's her," Mike breathed, hope flickering like a feeble flame in the gale. He squinted into the gloom, attempting to pierce its veil. "Lily?" The only answer was a chilling echo, a shadow darting just beyond the beam of their flashlights. They exchanged frantic glances before stepping forward, urgency propelling them deeper into the maze of crumbling classrooms and forgotten memories. Each door they passed loomed like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. "Mike!" "I don't think this is safe," Sarah moaned, pulling at his arm. She could feel the prickling skin of terror creeping up her spine. "We should go back." But Mike shook his head, clenching his jaw. The need to know overpowered the creeping dread. "We can't leave her. What if she's in here?" Then just as they approached what used to be the art room, they found it, the door hanging ajar. A chill washed over them, heavy and dense as they stepped over the threshold. Inside, remnants of color stained the floor, mixing with dust like dried blood. Sarah gasped. In the center of the room stood a figure shrouded in darkness, small and small enough to be mistaken for a child. Terror shot through her as she whispered, "Lily." The figure turned, and the room crackled with thick tension. It was a girl, her eyes wide and glassy, yet devoid of warmth. "They took her," she murmured, her voice hollow. "She's with them now." A guttural roar erupted from the shadows, sending both parents stumbling back. Figures emerged from the walls, twisted and unreachable, mouths agape in silent screams. Each movement distorted the air around them, warping reality. "Run!" Mike screamed, and they pivoted, darting back through the corridors, heart pounding. The unforgiving chaos behind them gaining speed, a relentless spirit of pursuit. Panic tightened around them as they burst out of the building, gasping for air. But the night was a wall of darkness. The gate leading to the woods loomed ahead, half open and inviting. Or perhaps an omen of the horrors lurking just beyond. "Mum, Dad!" The voice echoed, familiar yet different, disembodied and taunting. They dared not look back, but it snagged at their hearts like a hook, promising the return of their daughter mixed with the pitiful guilt of trusting the shadows. The night pressed closer, enveloping them in unnatural silence, the woods breathing an invitation filled with fear. As Mike and Sarah stood frozen, caught between hope and dread, a slow figure appeared at the edge of the trees, illuminated by the moonlight. Lily, or what remained of her. A scream bubbled in Sarah's throat, but it caught, impeding her voice. The girl in the woods blinked slowly, and a smile spread across her face, the kind that can only belong to the lost. "Come play with us." The invitation hung in the air like a noose. What awaited them beyond that threshold? Was it salvation or doom? The soft rustle of leaves wrapped around Mike and Sarah like whispers of dread, pulling them into the woods. Time and space felt distorted as they stood in a frozen moment, their breaths shallow and ragged. Lily's silhouette flickered at the edge of their sight, as if the darkness itself was playing tricks. "Lily!" Sarah finally croaked, desperation flooding her voice, but it twisted in the air, heavy and mournful. The figure didn't respond. She just swayed slightly, her head tilted as if listening to an unseen source. "What are you doing?" Mike shouted, adrenaline clouding his mind. "Come here, we need you!" The girl's smile widened, stretching unnaturally across her face. "They're waiting for you," she said, a haunting echo of promise that sent a chill racing down Mike's spine. Before they could process what she meant, shadows leapt from the trees, elongating and crawling across the ground like sinuous snakes. Panic surged anew as the icy claws of fear snared their hearts. "Back to the road," Mike urged, gripping Sarah's hand tightly. They tore through the darkness, branches snagging at their clothes, twigs snapping underfoot like brittle bones. Each hurried step was punctuated by cries, laughter from the forest filling their ears. Whether it belonged to Lily or something more sinister, they could not tell. "Mike, what if it's not her?" Sarah gasped, glancing over her shoulder. The shadows seemed to dance in glee, bounding after them with monstrous glee. They were everywhere, whispering, beckoning her deeper into the abyss. "We can't just follow her." With each frantic stride, the laughter warped into cries. Flashes of images and melodies twisted through their minds, happy memories of Lily, now tainted with the grotesque twist of dread. "We have to get out! This is a trap!" Mike yelled, pulling Sarah harder, urgency fueling their feet. The trees closed in, the path twisted underfoot, and the world felt alive with hostility. Then they stumbled onto a clearing. Moonlight flooded the space, illuminating a crudely built circle of stones. The ground was saturated with darkness, a thick mist swirling like phantoms reaching upward. "Look," Sarah pointed ahead, her voice barely above a whisper. In the center of the stones lay a doll, its eyes void, mouth sewn shut with thick thread, an effigy that rippled with the same energy that was chasing them. Mike stepped forward against the instinct telling him to flee. "Lily," he breathed, stepping toward the doll. Instantly, he was struck by the hollowness creeping up his throat, the weight of despair that ignited a memory he didn't want to confront. As he reached for the doll, shadows erupted from the trees. They spun around him, a torrent of breathless whispers, promising to reveal everything if he submitted. The laughter morphed, layered voices fading into an ominous chant, swaying menacingly around him. "Come play with us!" Sarah screamed, lunging to grab him, but the pull of the darkness was intense, each tendril seeking to split them apart. "Don't let go!" Mike shouted, his grip faltering as he struggled against the entities wrapping around him, tightening with malicious intent. They could feel the air thicken, pressing against their chests, suffocating. "Mom! Dad!" The voice echoed again, more desperate this time, coming from the trees. It was intoxicating. But with the words a revelation broke upon them, sharper than a knife edge, the truth buried in innocence, twisted by the night. "Lily!" Sarah's voice cracked as she turned, desperation compelling her to trust the sound, despite its distortion. "Where are you?" A sudden stillness descended, an unearthly silence before the storm. Mike's breath hitched, and in that profound moment of chaos, they watched the doll begin to twitch, eyes gleaming violently under the moonlight. "What is this?" And then a voice answered from the dark, cold and welcoming. "You'll find out soon enough." The laughter rose higher, mingling with the whispers, as dread seized every fiber of their beings, leaving only one question. What had they unleashed upon themselves? The air grew thicker, suffocating as the shadows took a life of their own, writhing and contorting like wild serpents. Mike tried to shield his eyes from the encroaching darkness, but it was no use. It seeped into his vision and thoughts, distorting everything around him. The haunting voice seemed to loop within his skull, reverberating with chilling promises. "Lily!" Sarah cried again, desperation breaking her voice as she twisted, trying to make sense of the chaos. She felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, a low thrum pulsing. Was it the earth or something darker beneath? With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged toward Mike, pulling him away from the doll. "We can't stay here. We have to." As she yanked him back, the shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned by their defiance, and then surged forward even more ferociously. The whispering morphed into a cacophony, muzzled laughter stretching from a distance, twining around them, drawing them closer to the center of the stone circle. "No, let go!" Mike cried out, feeling the cold grip of terror snare his heart. It was as if the earth itself was alive, breathing, urging them to succumb. The doll continued to tremble at the heart of the circle, its blank eyes now glistening with an inner fire that pulsed with an unholy heartbeat. "Swear you won't leave." The shadows hissed through jagged lips, a chorus woven from splintered souls. "Join us. It's better this way." In that moment, Mike caught a glimpse of something flickering beyond the doll, a dark figure taking shape. Something, or someone, was pulling at the fabric of their sanity. Sarah gasped, the vision electrifying her terror. It was Lily, but the child that stood there looked transformed, features worn and spoiled, as if nature had twisted her into something grotesquely beautiful. "Help me," she begged, and her voice shattered like glass, each fragment piercing deep into their souls. Yet beneath the plea was a hunger, a need that painted her words with insidious intent. "Lily, is that really you?" Sarah's voice trembled, caught between hope and despair, yet something deep within her warned that this wasn't right. "Come play with us!" The voices wrapped around them like chains, securing them in this blighted dreamscape. Shadows began to flicker, revealing parts of the landscape only hinted before. Faces, twisted and anguished, were coupled with distorted laughter, children with hollow eyes playing a deadly game. "Run!" Mike shouted, shaking himself free from the spellbinding pull. His instincts screamed that they were just steps away from doom, and they had to escape the trap tightening around them. But the ground shook violently, sending both of them tumbling to the ground. The mist swirled, thickening into a pulsating wall of darkness, cutting off all known escape routes. They scrambled to their feet, desperation igniting a frantic search for an exit. "Together!" Mike yelled. "On three!" As they grasped each other's hands, the laughter crescendoed to a maddening pitch. "You can't leave!" The shadows hissed, an almost childlike glee resonating through the air. "You belong to us now!" Panic surged as they counted, hearts pounding, drowning out the laughter. "1, 2, 3!" They bolted, pushing through the curtain of mist that writhed and clawed at them like a living wall. For an instant, they broke through, tumbling into an unkempt path, leading back toward the woods. But it felt like the very forest itself was alive, shifting to block their way. "Did we really escape?" Sarah panted, looking around wildly. Shadows danced along tree trunks, watching, waiting, whispering promises of despair. That same haunting echo teetered inside Mike's mind now. "We unleashed something. It's not done with us." Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled again, more violently this time, and another echoing cry pierced the night, a child's laugh, high-pitched and sinister. "Stay, play, forever." Terror cascaded through them, palpable and cold, and with racing hearts they faced the realization that the game had only just begun. What had they really set in motion by stepping into the darkness? What awaited them just beyond the veil of night? Adrenaline pulsed through Mike and Sarah as they stumbled deeper into the forest, branches clawing at their arms, the darkness closing in behind them. The laughter lingered, mocking and persistent, like a cruel refrain trapped in the air. Each step felt like running through thick mud, as if the forest itself was trying to drag them down, to bind them to the shadows they so desperately fled. "Do you hear that?" Sarah gasped, her breath a cloud of white in the chilling night air. Mike nodded, fear etched on his face. The laughter morphed into a low hum, vibrating beneath the surface, beckoning them in a twisted lullaby. The trees loomed larger now, their gnarled branches stretching like skeletal fingers, reaching for any errant light. The deeper they went, the more they could feel it, an insatiable hunger lurking just out of sight, waiting for them to falter. They rounded a bend, and a flickering light broke through the trees ahead. It was dim but steady, like a beacon in the oppressive dark. Drawing closer, they realized it was not what they hoped for. A campfire, a safe haven, but an eerie glow emanating from an old abandoned house, the windows shattered, curtains hanging like ghostly hands. "Should we check it out?" Sarah whispered, a tremor in her voice. "I don't think we have a choice," Mike replied, dread pooling in his stomach. The shadows flickered like angry spirits, urging them toward the house as they crept forward. Creaking floorboards beneath their feet squealed as they stepped inside, sending shivers down their spines. The air was stale, thick with the stench of rot and decay. Dust motes danced in the faint glow, and whispers echoed in the corners, stifled gasps that filled the space around them. "Lily!" Mike called. the name falling into the silence like a stone into a well, sending ripples through the darkness. A chill gripped him. It was as if the house inhaled their fear, savoring it like a fine wine. As they moved further in, shadowy shapes flitted just beyond their peripheral vision. He could feel them watching, teasing. Something was hiding just beyond the edge of the light. And then a faint sound reached their ears, a child's sob, the distinct sound of little hands patting against something, an unmistakable rhythm as if someone was banging on the floor. "Please, help me!" It was weak, frail, and echoed from the dimmest corner of the decrepit living room. "Lily?" Sarah's voice trembled as she took a cautious step forward, drawn to the sound like a moth to a flame. Don't go too far," Mike warned, though his voice held no strength. Anxiety knotted his insides. As Sarah reached the threshold of a dark hall, the sobbing stopped. Silence blanketed them, as thick as the lingering shadows. For a horrified moment, hope flickered within her. What if it really was Lily? But then an unnaturally cold breeze swept through the doorway, extinguishing the meager light they clung to. The very walls seemed to sigh, exhaling discontent. "Stay here," Mike ordered, heart hammering as he clenched Sarah's arm. "We need to think." The ground shook again, not with the rumble of an earthquake, but with pulsing intent, as if the house had grown awake, aware of the intrusion. Suddenly the shadows constricted, pulling in tight, revealing a childlike figure standing in the dimness. It was Lily, or the form of her, twisted into a grinning semblance. Her eyes glowed, swirling with madness as she stepped closer, dragging her fingers along the wall, leaving streaks of crimson that faded into the darkness. "Don't you want to play?" she whispered, and the choice hung heavy in the air like a noose tightening around their throats. Every instinct screamed for them to run, but they were frozen, caught in her gaze, swaying on the precipice of horror. Was this really their little girl? Or something worse, something that craved their despair? "If we do anything, it might be the wrong choice," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as dread choked them both. "Run or stay," Mike said, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. The shadows thickened behind them, snarling, hungry. They had to decide fast or be consumed. The moment stretched out, and Lily's terrifying grin widened. What would come next? Despair or salvation? Would they dare to defy the darkness or surrender to it? As the tension coiled tighter around them, Mike's gaze darted between the malicious grin plastered on the shadowy form of Lily and the encroaching darkness behind them. A decision weighed on him like a boulder. The nightmare twisted around them. Each corner of the room seemed to whisper secrets, taunting them to move just one step, and they could plunge into an unknown depth of horror. The shadows stirred, drawing closer, tendrils creeping along the walls like serpents hungry for prey. "I can't," Sarah's voice broke, caught between fear and hope. She was barely able to look away from the figure that mimicked their daughter's innocence, yet it was so wrong. What if... Mike's heart raced as a horrific thought crossed his mind. What if they stayed? What if this thing was a part of the forest, new and strange, offering a deceptive peace? What if it wasn't Lily at all, but a trap? Sensing the moment lingering, the figure moved again, a ghostly sway that seemed to mock time itself. "Play with me. Forever," she cooed, her voice sweet yet coated with ice. "Mike!" Sarah's voice trembled more now. "What if we can't leave? What if this is it?" The house groaned, an omnipresent moan that vibrated through the floorboards, dissenting and menacing. The weight of 1,000 decisions collapsed upon them. Running might mean losing every chance, yet staying could mean surrendering all hope. "Let's try to go, just back the way we came," Mike finally managed to say, reaching out for Sarah. But as he turned to lead her back, the room shifted in a way he couldn't comprehend. The walls warped and twisted, closing in like a vice. His stomach dropped. Panic surged. This was not just a house, it was a living entity. The air thickened like syrup, each breath consuming precious moments. "No!" the lily-shaped shadow shrieked, her voice morphing into something more monstrous, echoing through the dark depths. Her eyes burned with unsettling intensity, suddenly very real, very present. "You will stay!" "Run!" Mike shouted, snatching Sarah's arm and pulling her toward the entrance, only to be halted by an invisible force. A scream, wretched and despairing, filled the air, emanating from nowhere and everywhere. "Help me!" Lily's form flickered, half-formed images flickering in and out of reality like a broken video. For a heart-stopping instant, Mike thought he saw their real daughter, a momentary glimpse of innocence lost, eyes wide and filled with terror. The sight was enough to freeze their desperate flight. "Help!" The disembodied voice wailed again, now clearly echoing from below the floorboards. "Mike!" Sarah screamed, yanking free. "We have to help her!" A surge of horror twisted his gut. This wasn't their daughter's voice. These were remnants of sorrow trapped in the house, calling for others to join them. The darkness curled tighter around them, bringing with it heavy whispers that echoed like a dying wind. "We can't!" Mike yelled, his heart hammering painfully against his ribs. But as Sarah's resolve ignited, he felt a deep pull toward the shadowy figure. The lure of the unknown relationship was irresistible. What if there was a way to save Lily? His heart surged with memories of their little girl, the way she smiled, the way she played. But that child before them was not her. It was a monstrous mirage. In that moment of hesitation, they stood at the fulcrum between hope and despair. Shadows leapt as the air crackled with malicious energy. The darkness, alive and writhing, sought to consume them. "Sarah, we have to go now!" Mike shouted again, his voice breaking the spell. He pulled her hard towards the door, desperate for an escape, but the entire house shuddered violently. "Help me!" The voice dripped with sorrow, clawing at their sanity as they fled. The door. They needed just to reach it, but the walls pulsed, the air thick with a familiar smell, familiar yet tainted. Mike felt a cold rush at his back. The shadows surged, ready to burst forth. As they reached for the door, a scream pierced the darkness, sweet and dreadful, and then all at once it was gone. All gone, all gone. The house exhaled a final mournful sigh. In that momentary stillness, the shadows danced, beckoning Sarah into the depths. What was really behind that door? Mike's mind raced, unraveling, but the hunger of the house wouldn't stop. The heartbeat of the place throbbed wildly, claiming secrets and sins. "Mike!" Sarah's voice was now so small, so shattered. Before he could answer, something cold wrapped around his leg as a terrified whisper echoed again. Only this time it was clearer, and it was coming from right behind him. "Please, don't leave me." As Mike turned, dread washed over him like ice water. Would they succumb to the clutches of this hellish abode, or could they break free from its grasp? The race for survival was on, but the woods still called, an echo beckoning them back into the abyss. What awaited them just beyond the threshold? Mike spun around, heart pounding. The icy grip tightened around his ankle, and the whisper clung to the air like a fatal fog. He could already feel the shadow's energy clawing deeper into his psyche, a cruel taunt of despair. Shadows danced like serpents, twisting around the room, feeding off their fear. "Sarah!" he shouted, ripping his leg free from the chilling grasp. His eyes locked onto the door, an escape, or maybe a gateway to something even worse. The flickering light from the depths illuminating the threshold flickered, summoning him and Sarah closer with its deceptive glow. "What's happening?" Sarah gasped, tears running down her face. Panic turned her voice jagged and raw. "Why won't it let us go? Maybe it's a part of this place. We're trapped in its web." Mike yelled, taut with fear. He felt the shadows pressing closer, their tendrils now brushing against his skin, pulling him in. Sarah's gaze darted to the shadow of Lily. The creature twisted its face, shifting through expressions like it was tasting their agony. "You'll never leave," it hissed, now barely recognizable as their daughter. "You belong to me." "Stop it! You're not her!" Mike shouted. In that moment he lunged for Sarah's hand, but she hesitated, entranced by the dismal wail that echoed from the floor below. "Help me! Help me!" A horrifying realization hit him. The house was collecting echoes, the tormented cries of lost souls merging into a haunting chorus. It venerates despair, feasting on anguish with malicious intent. "Do you see? It's a trap," he urged, trying to break the spell. "It wants our pain." "But," Sarah trembled, caught in the dissonant pull, "what if we can save her?" "No, it's bait, Sarah. We can't trust it." The desperation pushed him forward. "We need to go now." As he dragged her back toward the door, the walls curved as if alive, shifting their foundation. "Help me." The voice grew more desperate, an abyssal longing pulling her back. Mike could feel her slipping through his fingers, her attention drawn deeper into the house's heart. "No, don't listen." Panic consumed him. He couldn't lose her, not like this. "Stay with me!" The shadows screamed in protest, a cacophony of otherworldly voices swirling around them. The house trembled under the weight of their fear, thrumming with dark energy. "You can't run! You can't hide!" Adrenaline surged as they made their escape, the door looming larger, more real. The faint sunlight beyond promised freedom, a world unmarred by the monstrosity within. The whispers reached a fever pitch. "Please don't leave me." The tortured cries surged again, but this time they were louder, a cruel mockery of innocence lost. They were everywhere. "Sarah!" he cried, yanking on her arm. The door was only a few strides away, but the shadows were relentless, grasping at their sanity, slippery fingers sinking into their skin. "Mike, wait," Sarah pleaded, her feet refusing to budge. I think I can see her." "See who? Not Lily, not our daughter." Rage and sorrow mingled in his throat, threatening to spill over as the shadows writhed, snatching at their hope. "Help me, Mommy, help me!" The chilling voice resonated from the depths, shifting with agonizing sincerity. Terror shattered Mike's resolve. That voice, remnants of something they once loved, a reminder of everything they could lose. He felt her hand weaken in his grasp. "You're stronger than this," he shouted, their only chance dwindling. With nothing left but sheer desperate will, he yanked her in the opposite direction. The door, it was right there. But just as he reached for the handle, the very walls groaned as they slithered inward, sealing their escape. Despair gripped his heart like a vice, the pervasive stench of rot and decay suffocating them. "It's going to break us," he whispered, realization dawning. "Mike, I don't want to stay." Sarah's voice broke, fraying, flickering between belief and dread. As the darkness closed around them, Mike felt the pressure mount, shadows crashing against him like waves of despair. They had to make one final choice. "Together," he breathed, raising their entwined hands. "On 3. "Okay." Sarah's breath quivered. 1, 2. As Mike took in the swirling mass of darkness around them, they both believed. But would it be enough? 3! Light exploded, illuminating the room in a blinding flash. The shadows shrieked in agony, their furious wails flooding their senses. But where would they end up? What lay beyond the light? Would they find salvation? Or was this merely the beginning of another nightmare? The light enveloped them like a shroud, burning away the shadows that clutched at their souls. For a moment, Mike felt weightless, floating on a tide of white fury. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. He blinked against it, clutching Sarah's hand tighter, ready to face the unknown together. Then just as quickly, the light receded, and they landed with a jarring thud on a cold, hard surface. The world around them shifted, the air thick with an unwelcome stillness. Mike gasped. The familiar noise of the shadows now silenced. He looked around, his heart stuttering with fear. It was a room, barren and unwelcoming. Grey cement walls closed in on them, stone-cold and stark. An old flickering bulb swung from the ceiling, casting erratic shadows that flickered like restless spirits. The absence of whispers left an unsettling echo, amplifying every beat of his racing heart. "Where are we?" Sarah whispered, her voice quaking. "I don't know." Mike stood, helped her up, then scanned the room. Only one door graced the distant wall, draped in shadow. "But we have to find a way out. We can't stay here." Without thinking, he bolted towards the door, desperation pushing him forward. With every step, he felt the chill seep deeper into his bones. The feeling wasn't just physical, it was an icy dread that clawed at him, whispering that they were far from safe. "Mike, wait!" Sarah's voice wavered, and he stopped, turning back to see her pale face shadowed in fear. What if it's worse? What if this is just another trap? There's no way to know unless we try. We can't go back. We can't face that again. He felt anger rise in his chest, mingling with fear. He hated the uncertainty, the way the darkness always followed them like a stalking beast. "Okay," she murmured, biting her lip. "I trust you." Together, they pushed open the creaking door. It swung widely, revealing a long corridor lined with narrow windows. The pitch-black outside loomed terrifyingly, but inside they could barely make out details. The walls were damp, coated in a sickly peeling paint. A faint rancid odor hung in the air like a warning. As they stepped through, a low hum pulsed along the walls, vibrating in Mike's bones. The sound grew louder as they moved along the corridor, like a heartbeat echoing through a hollow chamber. Each pulse sent tendrils of panic swirling in Mike's gut. "Do you hear that?" Sarah asked, her eyes darting nervously. It feels alive," he replied, shivering against the chill that seeped into his skin. Suddenly the humming shifted, morphing into a discordant chant that reverberated through the hallway. The words were indistinct, twisted into sinister shapes that held malice. Shadows skittered across the walls, and Mike fought an impulse to run. But instinctively, he knew that retreating wasn't an option. "Keep moving," he urged, forcing his legs to carry him forward. The atmosphere thickened, every step heavier than the last. They reached an iron door, rusted and ancient, set deep into the wall. Mike hesitated, terror surging anew. "What's behind this one?" Only one way to find out. Sarah's voice trembled but held a steely edge. She pushed the door, and it creaked open, revealing a darkened room. "Look!" She pointed inside. A dim light flickered within, casting grotesque shadows that danced along curved walls. Heart-racing, Mike peered in. At the center was a pedestal, adorned with strange symbols, but it was what sat atop it that sent a chill racing down his spine. A small, delicate doll resembling Lily, its glassy eyes sparkling with something unholy. "Is that—" Sarah gasped, taking a step back. "I don't know, but we need to get out," Mike urged, grabbing her wrist. The whispers returned, this time louder, more frenzied. "Help me! Help me!" echoed through the room, tantalizingly familiar. "Mike!" Sarah's voice trembled, horror etched across her face. "What if it's her? What if we can bring her back?" "No, we have to leave, now!" But before he could turn back, the door slammed shut behind them, plunging them into darkness. The air thickened, swirling with despair and regret, wrapping around them like a vice. The shadows surged, a chaotic mass eager to swallow them whole. "Stay close!" he shouted, the room tightening around them. And in that moment of impending doom, something deep within the darkness began to stir. "Maybe you can save her, if you're willing to pay the price," a voice hissed, sultry and enticing. "Price?" Mike barked. But answers weren't forthcoming. The room closed like a trap. And he knew, in that moment, the choice wasn't just about survival. It was only the beginning of a horror they had yet to comprehend. What would they sacrifice to uncover the truth they hoped to find? The shadows twisted and writhed around them, vibrating with a malevolence that gripped Mike's heart. "What have we done?" he whispered, panic tightening his throat. The air felt alive, a suffocating force pushing at him from all directions. "Mike, we have to find a way out." Sarah's voice quaked, pulling him back to the present. She clutched his arm, her nails digging into his skin. In a panic he could feel deep in his bones. The room seemed to pulse with an energy that felt wrong, tainted. The whispers crescendoed, turning into a cacophony of voices that merged into something unintelligible. Each syllable felt like a drop of ice sliding down his spine. "Help me. Bring her back." "Stop! Just stop!" Mike shouted, but they didn't relent. Instead, the sound grew richer, saturating the space around them. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, moving like darting insects, teasing him, tantalizing him with what he hoped and dreaded all at once. "We need to do something," Sarah cried out, her eyes widening with fear that mirrored his own. Everything in Mike screamed to flee, but deep down, an unsettling curiosity tangled with his desire to escape. "What if—" he breathed, the thought dangling in the air like an unspoken wish. "No!" Sarah's voice pulled him from the brink. "Don't you dare say it! We've lost so much already." But the doll, Lily's likeness, sat silently on the pedestal, beckoning them with its unblinking gaze. The urge to reach for it was overwhelming, the very essence of hope intertwined with impending doom. What wouldn't they do for a second chance? "Future lies in discovery, but truths come with harrowing costs," spoke that sultry voice again, dripping with taunting sorrow. "Who are you?" Mike shouted, desperately seeking clarity in the madness. "What do you want from us?" Silence engulfed the room, the kind that screamed louder than any rush of whispers. The shadows seemed to lean in, awaiting a revelation. Then, from the depths of that haunting quiet, broken laughter erupted, unfurling like a dark blossom. "Only you decide if the veil of life is to be torn," it whispered, entwined with the deep echo of their fears. "You've tasted loss. Now drink from the cup of resurrection or wither in the abyss of forgetfulness." "No!" Sarah shouted, shaking her head, her courage a soft flame against the encroaching terror. "We can't do this! We can't!" But Mike's resolve trembled like a fragile leaf. The vision of Lily, her laughter, her smile, haunted him. "If it can save her," he thought, each word a dagger twisting within him. What kind of person would he become if he turned away? His breathing accelerated, thoughts swirling in a chaotic storm. "Sarah, what if we could—" "Stop! Just think!" she snapped, grounding him slightly. "What if it's a trick? We can't trust this, whatever this is." The shadows thickened, drawing closer. They swayed, whispering, "You have a choice, Mike. Embrace the darkness or be consumed by it." His heart raced. Decisions slipped through his fingers like grains of sand. Hope gnawed at him, a desperate craving against the weight of despair. He couldn't let fear paralyze him. Couldn't let the past win again. "Do we pay the price?" he eventually asked, voice trembling even as the words fell like power in the dark. The laughter returned, richer now, filled with promise and peril. "Only when you're ready—" "Mike!" Sarah's voice was edged with terror as a thick mist wrapped around their legs, pulling them gently toward the pedestal. "What do you do? Please!" Her words echoed in his mind, a tether to reality in a place devouring reason. With every breath he felt the shadows urging him, and then, like a sudden gust of wind, the air shifted. "Make your choice," it whispered, a challenge and a temptation. As his hand reached uncertainly toward the doll, something stirred in the shadows. He felt its gaze locking onto his heart, an expectation masked with savage menace. And then the room began to shake. "Mike!" Sarah screamed, but it was too late. He knew they were at a precipice, moments from a decision that could rip their lives and souls apart forever. What awaited on the other side of that fragile veil? Would they find salvation or plunge deeper into a nightmare? In that spiraling moment, they faced the inky void, an abyss where hope met a darkness too profound to comprehend. The choice was made, but the real horror was yet to come. The darkness pulsed ominously as Mike's hand hovered over the doll, its glassy eyes shimmering with shadows from another realm. The moment felt infinite, each second stretching into eternity. In that split second, time felt fragile, like flickering candlelight battling against the encroaching night. "Don't!" Sarah's voice shattered the thick air like glass, pulling him back as if by a thread. "It could be a ploy. We've already lost too much." Fear and defiance radiated from her as she gripped his arm tighter, grounding him. But the seductive whispers intensified, a chorus of longing and sorrow wrapping around him like a suffocating shroud. "Bring her back. She needs you," they beckoned, caressing his mind with phantom sensations of Lily's laughter. His heart raced, flaring between hope and horror. What if it is her? Mike fought against the suffocating dread clawing at him from the shadows, the thoughts humming relentlessly. What if I could save her? "No," Sarah insisted, a flicker of desperation injecting strength into her plea. "Lily wouldn't want this. This thing, that's not our daughter." Their eyes locked, trembling with raw emotion. The weight of decision was heavy, like a shackle, chaining him to that moment. The choice that would tear their world apart or offer a glimmer of light in endless darkness. "What if this is our chance?" he murmured, doubt washing over his words, uncertainty pulsating deep within. "Or a trap! We can't lose ourselves again!" Her voice tremored, pain echoing in every syllable. The shadows swirled with anticipation, urging him closer to the doll, which shimmered with an unnerving allure. Each heartbeat reverberated in his chest, the rhythmic drum echoing against the oppression of the air. "Enough!" Mike roared, resolution igniting within him. Gone were the desperate impulses, the fear-laden thoughts. He stepped back, dragging Sarah with him as he turned away from the pedestal. "No!" The cacophony of voices roared in protest. The shadows shrieked in fury, surging forward like a tidal wave, unleashing their rage against his defiance. "You will pay!" "Run!" Mike shouted, fear solidifying his command as he yanked Sarah toward the door, now a flickering semblance of hope amidst chaos. As they dashed back into the corridor, darkness clawed at their heels, thrumming beneath them. The shadows twisted, elongating into clawed hands, reaching out to pull them back into the depths of despair. "You can't escape the price of your choices," the voices shrieked, biting at their resolve. "No!" Sarah screamed amid the din, the determination coursing through her, fueling each stride. "Keep going! We're so close!" Every step was a battle, the shadows lurking and twisting, desperation thickening the air around them. But a fleeting light beckoned from the entrance, breaking through the oppressive gloom. They forged ahead, the light growing brighter, each flicker becoming a siren's call to escape. With a final push, they burst through the door and into the night. Fresh air flooded their lungs, the moonlight pouring over them in waves of warmth. They fell forward, gasping as they collapsed onto the cool grass of the clearing. The woods loomed behind them, a dark ocean of agitated whispers and treacherous promises. Yet as they reclaimed their breaths, their eyes darted back toward the forest's edge. For a brief moment, they saw her, Lily's silhouette flickering in the shadows, a ghost of the girl they once knew, beckoning and pleading. "Mum! Dad!" The haunting call rippled through the night, familiar yet laced with otherworldly distortion. But this time, Mike gripped Sarah's arm firmly, casting the temptation aside. "We can't go back," he insisted, strength anchoring his voice. "We have to break this cycle." Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks, but there was a fire in her gaze now. "You're right. We need to leave this place behind. Together they turned their backs on the beckoning darkness, hands clenched tightly, hearts beating as one. With determination, they stumbled away from the forest, the light of the moon guiding their steps. Each stride carried them further from the horror they had faced, away from the echoes of the past. They felt the weight lifting, the shadows receding like a dark tide, withdrawing from the shore. Mike's heart surged with bittersweet hope. They had escaped the clutches of the house, yet the memory of Lily would never fully fade. But now they could grieve properly, could begin healing amidst the loss rather than be consumed by it. As they reached the main road and the warmth of familiar surroundings loomed ahead, they understood something vital. It wasn't just about escaping the darkness. It was about choosing to carry the light forward, honoring what had been lost while embracing the life they still had. With hope reignited within, they held on to each other, refusing the shadows any longer. They stepped into the soft embrace of dawn, leaving the darkness behind, forever strengthened by the knowledge that they could face the abyss and emerge anew. And as the whispers faded into a haunting memory, they knew they had chosen the path to life, where the possibility of love would always reign. Now more than ever they understood the importance of connection, the power of human spirit and resilience, but also the warning that shadows lurked, even in the brightest places. As they made their way home, a new beginning blossomed before them, delicate yet vibrant, paving a way to the future they would now face together. If you want to hear more tales that will captivate your heart and haunt your dreams, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Smash that like button to keep our stories flowing, and don't forget, flood that comment section. Share your theories about Lily and what happened next. I want to hear your thoughts. Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this conclusion. Your support is what keeps this channel alive. Only true fans understand the importance of being part of this journey.